A friend of mine has been working on his autobiography, and he's just about done. He gave me a copy to read, and as you can see, it's in open document format. He's been using Libre Writer to write it with, and Libre Writer is a great program. It's very much like Word, but when I looked at it, I opened it by right-clicking on it and then choosing Open With, and you see I have the choices of using Libre, which I have on this machine, or I could use Word. So I'm going to open it with Word, and Word has no trouble opening open document format documents. And you see here it is, table of contents, and there's his document. Now the first thing I recognize is that these page numbers, which he's put in here manually to get to the various sections, aren't lined up very well. And I knew that that was caused by someone who's using a word processing program much like it was a typewriter. And if you go up here to the home ribbon and you click on this little icon here, which is called show hide the paragraph marks and other symbols, you can see what's happening. Why doesn't that work? Oh, I see. We didn't enable editing. It says it's protected. Be careful, this could be dangerous. Well, I trust him, so I'm going to enable editing. And once I do that, it should let me go back here and click on this show paragraph marks. And now you see this is where he has paragraphs. This is where he inserted line feeds to get to the next line. But a line feed is really ending that paragraph and create a new one. And so he's putting in spaces by entering extra new line characters or paragraph symbols. See how he's got a lot of them here? That's what somebody who's used to using a typewriter does. The other thing you see is that to get out to this column where he wants to put the page numbers, he's just entered a bunch of spaces. These little dots, these hidden dots, represent spaces. The problem is that our old typewriters use monospaced fonts. In a monospaced font, every character is the same width, and the more modern fonts, each character has a different width. And so depending on what's over here, the number of spaces you put in, they don't quite line up. You know, you put out the same number of spaces and things don't line up. You see what a jagged line it is. So that's typical of someone that doesn't really know how to use a word processor. And that's most of us that start using a word processor without previous experience. The other thing I noticed was that, he could do a lot better if he used Word. And the reason I say that is, I wouldn't recommend that to anybody else, but I know that he owns Microsoft Word. He bought it over a year ago because of the terabyte of OneDrive space that comes with it. And basically he's just been using OneDrive and hasn't been using either of the Microsoft products, Excel and Word. Now there's a lot of other ones that you get with it, but most people initially start with Word and Excel. I suggested that he convert to Word and take advantage of some of the features. And one of the nice features in Word is that it can generate a table of contents automatically. And then if you add or subtract text, it will update that table of contents semi-automatically, just at the click of a button. So to convert this to Word, it's very simple. You just save it as a Word document. We're going to go up here, and I've added an icon here for Save As, if you don't have this icon under File, one of the choices over here is Save As. And if we say Save As, it's going to allow us to save the document. And by default, it's going to save it in the same format. You just give it a different name. But I'm going to change the format, and I'm going to change it to the current Word document format. And it's putting it in the temp directory where the other document is, which is fine. I'm going to say Save. And now this is a Word document on this PC. Now, the next thing we need to do is identify some styles. Basically, he has two styles. He has his normal paragraphs, and he has these headings. And the headings are what become the entries in the table of contents. So what we're going to do is we're going to go define styles for those two types of text. So to do that, it's very simple. We just highlight the text. So notice how I don't want to highlight the paragraph. I'm just going to highlight some text. Well, got the paragraph. I think we're okay. So now I'm going to go up here, and I want this to become, notice that as I hovered over heading 1, it sort of temporarily changed it. But I'm going to right-click on heading 1, because I know that heading 1 is magic for table of contents. I'm going to right-click on it, and I'm going to say update heading 1 to match the selection. So it's going to magically change the definition of the style heading 1 to match what he already has. See how it did that? It knows that this is a heading 1 paragraph, and you can tell that because it's outlined here or highlighted. And we need to do some other things. I don't want to have to generate space after it. I want the space to be automatically generated. I want the space before the title to be automatically generated. So to do that, we go back here to the definition of heading 1, and we say modify. We see it's already got what he was using. He's using a Comic Sans typeface. He has it in bold, and he's using this red maroon color. But what we need to do is go look at the definition of the paragraph settings for that style. So we'll go down here, we'll go to paragraph, and as you see, currently there's no space before it or no space afterwards. So I'm going to put space before it, and we can either use the little arrows, which sort of jump up 6 points at a time, and as you remember, 12 points is basically one line in a normal pica sense. So if I put in 36 points, that's a half an inch, because we know that 72 points are basically an inch, very close to an inch. And I'm going to put space afterwards. I'm going to put, not auto, but I'm going to say 12 points afterwards, a line afterwards. Now the other thing I'm going to do while I'm here is I'm going to define page breaks, and I'm going to say keep with next, because if this heading ends up at the bottom of the page, I want to be sure that the next paragraph stays on that page. So I'm going to define the line and page break style to be keep with next, and by default widow and orphan control is on, and that basically says, you know, don't let the paragraph have just a little teeny bit of a line on one page and not on the other page. Okay, so we'll save that. We'll say okay, we'll save that. Now notice all of a sudden this style, this paragraph, has space before it and space afterwards. And so I'm going to have to go through his document and remove all of these extra paragraph marks that he's put in here. So we can do that later. Okay, so now I need to define the normal style for this document. And here's the way he likes his paragraphs to work. So I'm going to highlight some text. I'm going to go to the normal paragraph. Whoops. See, it's just temporarily changing it. But if I right click here, once again, I can say update normal to match the selection. And presto, normal has now become the same as the selection. What happened? There, okay. Now, notice if we go look at the definition of normal, we can modify, just like we did with the heading 1, we can modify it. We can see that it's using Comic Sans 10 point, which is what he was using. He likes his text to be bold, which is fine. And I'm going to go look at the paragraph definition. And width and orphan control is on, that's good. Line spacing, I'm going to always put after a paragraph 12 points of type, which is about a line. And that means that we no longer have to do what he's doing, which is putting these extra new lines between paragraphs. And I think it's well worth doing that. So that's the secret to this document. And now what we have to do to format the rest of the document, we would select all of this text. We want it all to be in the normal style. It's not, normal is not highlighted, but as soon as I click on here, all of these paragraphs are now normal. We need to remove these extra lines that he's thrown in. We click on this line, and that wants to be a heading 1, so all you do is go up here and click heading 1. Presto, it's a heading 1. And we do the same here. And this is a footer that's in this document. We come back and look at footers later on. We want to change those. But we now would just go through here, once again, select all this text, down to the next heading, click on normal, get rid of the extra lines. Everything looks good. And similarly, we would go here, we click on heading 1, and notice because it now became heading 1, it knew that it had to jump to the next page because it forces this heading to be with whatever's on the next page. And this is just a line worth of spaces with a new line after it that he threw in there, but we just delete all that nonsense. Okay, and once again we make this normal and so on. We continue through the document. I'm going to bring up another version of this document where I've already made all these changes, and we'll show you how the table of contents goes in there. Here's the autobiography after I've gone through and made each of the headings have a style of heading 1, and I've changed all of the text in the document to normal. Now, before I go on and add the table of contents, which is what I want to show you next, let's do a couple of other things. One thing that annoyed me here is that there's a different spacing between these two lines than there is between all of the other lines here. And that's because he did this nice larger cap at the beginning of the line. He did that by making this character 22 points instead of the 10 that all of the other characters are. Word, to be helpful, said, gee, since there's 22 point text here, I'll spread these lines a little bit more. And this is the result. So this is really what I call in typesetting terms a drop cap. That would look much better as a drop cap, a big T fit into the paragraph to highlight it. So the way you make a drop cap in Word is you highlight the letter at the beginning of the paragraph, and you come up here to something, I don't know, maybe insert and drop cap. Somewhere in here. Word. There it is. Drop cap. Add a drop cap. So I've highlighted the T, and watch what happens when I click on Add Drop Cap. Well, nothing happens. I have to pick the way I like it. So I could either have it put the letter out in the margin, or I can have it wrap around the text, and there's some other options, but here we'll just pick this one, and look at that. There's a nice big T at the beginning of the paragraph, and the lines are spaced the same. So I like that as a better choice. And the other thing let's look at is the footer here. The footer was added by Libre Writer, and you know, it's automatically numbering the pages. The only thing I would like to do is give the footer a style of footer or something like that. Let's see what styles we have already built in. So we'll go back to here, and if we click on this double down arrow, we see a bunch of choices, and none of them are footer. So let's create a style. We'll create a style. We'll call it footer text or something. Now there are some keywords that they won't allow you to use in a style name, so we'll hope that footer text is okay. I think maybe if I just called it footer, it wouldn't quite work. So I'm going to call it footer text, and I'm going to modify it. And well, there is a footer style. Huh. Why couldn't I see that? I guess it wasn't up here in this list. So let's cancel this whole thing. Let's go back here. And another choice we have, besides this pull down, to see the text that are up here, to see the different styles that are up here in this gallery, there are really more styles than that. So if we click here, we see a list of all of the styles. And because we're already on this style, footer style is already identified. So we can define footer. So we'll see it shows you the characteristics of footer here when we hover over it. But if I click on this down arrow, I have the modify option. And I can make the footer anything I want. And we'll make it maybe a little bigger than the 10 points. And we're going to center it instead of left justifying it. And I want to automatically update all the things based on that. And I'm going to add it to the styles gallery so that we'll be up there in the future. And let's go look at the paragraph settings for footer. It has space after it. We don't really need space after it. 0 space. But maybe just a hair space before it. So let's try that. We'll say OK. We'll say OK. Now you see that there's a page number in the center, and it's centered. And if we go further down, all of the page numbers have taken on that characteristic. All right. Now let's close this up, and let's go back here to the table of contents. By double clicking here, I get out of the footer and back to the regular text. So instead of removing and replacing his table of contents, I'm going to stick in a new one above it, and then we'll make sure that they sort of match up. So I got a couple blank lines, so I have room to put it. And watch the magic here. If I say is it insert or reference? I think it's references. So I go to references. Here's table of contents over here. If I look at the choices, I have something that looks like this. Like it says, has a title of table of contents, and it has anything that's heading 1 appears at this level. If we have heading 2 titles, or headings, that will be slightly indented in the table of contents, etc. Now, I think this document only has heading 1, so if we pick this, so if I double click on this, presto, we have up at the top an automatic table of contents. And look at that. Everything lines up perfectly. It has little leading dots to lead the eye over to the page number, and the edges lined it up perfectly. So I really like the way that looks. I don't know if I can, let's see what table of content, let's see the word table of contents, see if I can change this. Does that have a style of, no, it has no style, so we'll be safe to change it. So if we center it, there we go, and there's his old table of contents, and we could go and compare and make sure we haven't lost anything. The page numbers are different because things have moved around slightly from when he numbered it, but that's okay. So now we'll remove the old stuff, and there we go. We'll get rid of that. Presto. Now, if we add text and remove text and edit this document in the future, the page numbers in the table of contents may change slightly. But all we have to do is go click here and click on Update Table, and it will update the table of contents and refill in the page numbers correctly. Isn't that magical? So that's some of the reasons that I recommended that he convert over to Word, since he already owned it anyway. For someone that doesn't need the space on OneDrive, LibreOffice is still a great choice. You have Libre Writer, which is their equivalent to Word, and you have Libre Calc, which is the equivalent of Excel. But I finally ended up converting to Word and Excel, and just like the person who had this document, it took me a while. I owned it for a while before I really started using Word and really started using Excel. I kept using Calc for a while. So anyway, hope you learned something, and we'll see you next time.